A's Extra.
For the best coverage of Anglers baseball, it's the Hook Podcast.
It's gone into the Cardinals bullpen. Evan Longoria has tied the game at 4.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Jeff Belge loads the bases and somehow dances his way out of the jam. It is long gone. It's another torque bomb.
Now to your hosts, Ben Shulman and Emmanuel Berbari.
Episode 5 of The Hook here for the Chatham Anglers A's Extra this week. Ben Shulman, Emmanuel Berbari, and we have a lot of fun stuff to break down today. We're going to do our regular check-in with some of the great players in the pros and also in college and maybe the minors as well. We have a great interview coming up with another Georgia Tech player. We had Jake DeLeo. Now we'll bring on one of his teammates for this episode. And then we're going to talk to you about an interesting article that should be going up on the Chatham Anglers website and social medias pretty soon. But first, E-Man, how are you doing today? I know, we're wrapping up here your senior year. How's everything going?
It's going well, man. It's crazy to think that graduation is just a couple of days away. It's a little wild, but thankful to have an in-person ceremony. They're dividing it into 4 different pods and then streaming it all together on one Saturday. So looking forward to that. How's everything up in Syracuse? I hear you're no longer in Syracuse.
Yeah, I've gone even more up. I'm up in Canada now, finishing out the rest of my year online, but glad to get through the semester and have this little bit of time at home before, of course, I come back down and join you and the team in Chatham this summer. But Canada's fun. It's nice to be home, and I'm enjoying my a little bit of relaxation that I'm getting here. Some guys that aren't relaxing right now, some of these hot hitters and pitchers for Chatham. And let's start with you, E-Man. Who's someone either from the pros, minors, or college that you're looking at right now who's been really well, who's a Chatham alum?
I'm looking at a future Chatham Angler right now, and Ethan Long. We mentioned him in a past episode, the versatility, the dual threat, the multi-sport athlete, and he is just absolutely raking. He has 5 consecutive multi-hit games for ASU. At California, he drove in 4 runs. He knocked 2 out of the park. And then he followed it up with another 2-hit performance and 2 RBI performance. And how about this? His last 3 games, he's driven in a combined 11 runs. He's racked up 7 hits in the process. He's hitting .389. So I'm jacked up to see Ethan Long in Chatham. He's an absolute unit.
I know former Chatham broadcaster and ASU alum Josh Schaefer is all over the Ethan Long saga right now. He's got a shot to maybe be, in a 3-4 spot in the lineup for Chatham this year with the way that he's swinging both with average and power right now. I don't have necessarily an Ethan Long for me on the college side, but the Citadel's Crosby Jones is a guy who we haven't talked about yet that I think probably is a little under talked about because he's not in a major program. And unfortunately for the Citadel, they're only 12-35 this year. Crosby Jones, though, hitting .306 with a near 800 OPS. And the reason I talk about him is he was slumping a little bit coming into this latest series with Mercer. And then in the last 2 games, 4 hits, 3 RBIs, including a double. He swung for power this year with 11 extra base hits, also is great for average. And he's kind of a guy I think that Chatham could end up using top of the lineup or maybe a turnover guy with these, modern lineups where you put a pseudo leadoff hitter at 9. He's someone that I think is going to get on base a lot for the Ethan Longs of the world to then knock him in. Now, moving over to the pros, or do you want to stick with college, E-Man?
Let's move over to the pros for a second because there's some Chatham movement there as well. We've highlighted Matt Harvey a couple of times on the podcast. It's a popular name to say. We don't want to drive it home too much, but we'd be remiss not to mention his return to Citi Field, the emotions that ran high for Matt Harvey, and a positive return to Citi Field. There were some questions which I thought were a little funny heading in, whether he would receive a positive message from the Citi Field, Flushing faithful. I thought it was obvious. I think he made a profound impact on that organization. Didn't end the way either side would want, but there's always going to be that dark night love. He didn't have the best outing, but he certainly, from an emotional standpoint, really enjoyed his return and had emotions running high from that send off the crowd gave him, which I thought was really special.
I'll give the listeners or viewers a little inside baseball. E-Man apologized for repeating. So he felt like he wasn't sure to do it. So it's my fault. If you heard him repeating and you were angry, it's my fault. Because I said, I think we should put Harvey in.
No, I love it. I love it. Not too much of Matt Harvey ever. He's, of course, a prominent Chatham alum. And that's a moment worth mentioning where he came back to his roots. And it's actually remarkable that he's still pitching and pitching in a major role on a big league team and had the opportunity to go and start a game at Citi Field once again. So definitely worthy of a mention here on the podcast.
Putting up good numbers against a really tough AL East division this year. I'm going to stick in the AL East technically. I'm moving down to AAA, though, to the Buffalo Bisons, the Toronto Blue Jays AAA affiliate, for what could be the next really, really exciting Chatham player to come to the majors, pitcher Alek Manoah, with Chatham back in 2017. And he just moved up to AAA. And boy, has he been outstanding. His first start against the Woo Sox of Worcester, where another former Chatham broadcaster, Cooper Boardman, now works for the Woo Sox.
Congratulations, by the way, to Cooper. That is outstanding. He's fresh out of school, and he's with the Woo Sox. Outstanding things ahead for Cooper Boardman.
But Alek Manoah was not ready to give him a warm welcome. He went to Worcester and threw 6 innings of 2-hit baseball with 12 strikeouts. I mean, there's essentially no better way to start your AAA career. And then he says it's not a bluff, it's not a one-hit wonder. Comes back 4 days ago against the Rochester Red Wings, a lot of red involved in his opponents, and he goes 6 innings, 1-hit baseball, only 5 strikeouts, but 12 scoreless innings and 2 starts. A Blue Jays team that needs starting pitching. Don't be surprised if, whether it's as a starter or a backup, Alek Manoah makes his MLB debut this year. It could easily happen in the latter months of the season. So I got to stick with Alek Manoah for my second highlight.
And if he makes that debut, I think that's something you would enjoy very much, Ben.
I would love it. That would be, are there multiple? The Tommy Malone. Who am I forgetting? There's another Chatham alum that I'm forgetting right now, I think. But we got Tommy and we got Alek Manoah for sure. And I'm going to look through because I know there's a third one that I'm forgetting. But I'll have it by the end of this episode.
Well, Ben, my last highlighted player, we mentioned in our last episode, the Mount Rushmore of names that could potentially be taking the Cape this summer with Chatham. I think this name gives anyone a run for its money. His real name is Richard Scott, but he got the nickname and is what he goes by, Scotty Scott. That's a first name, last name. He's at Hawaii, and he is a future Chatham angler. He's in his sophomore season, got an extra year of eligibility after the COVID season, and he is raking right now a near 300 batting average, a little bit of a smaller outfielder with a lot of versatility. So Scotty Scott, we mentioned Cy Nielsen last week. We're going to have a competition this summer for who has the better name.
I think that we have to figure it out. We need like a fan vote or something. We need to determine who the best name is. I think there are a couple sleepers, but I'm not sure anyone gets, like, I think there's clearly a 1A and 1B, and it's Cy Nielsen and Scotty Scott, because that's incredible. I can't find another name right now on the current roster that's better than those two. I have to take us back a little bit in terms of names. This is not as good of a name, but it might be as good of a player as anyone that we've talked about so far. Josiah Gray. So he comes into the year, #1 prospect in the Dodgers organization, but held back a little bit. And he didn't make his debut this week, unfortunately, due to some outside circumstances. We couldn't have an episode last week, but I wanted to make sure we mentioned 10 days ago, he makes his AAA debut. Pretty good outing. I mean, it wasn't outstanding, but 5 innings, 10 strikeouts is good. Also allowed 2 earned runs. But Josiah Gray, another guy that could be coming up this year. I mean, the Dodgers are loaded, so who really knows? But definitely something to watch. And another thing I'm impartial to, because Josiah Gray, not a Syracuse University guy, but a Syracuse guy, pitched at nearby Lemoyne College. So I think he's another prospect that could be making his MLB debut and adding to this wide scope of anglers in Major League Baseball. We're seeing so many more. I mean, we didn't mention Pat Mazika. We shouted him out on Twitter, but he's had about the craziest introduction to a pro career that I've ever seen.
Fun fact about Scotty Scott, by the way, he had a 4.6 GPA in high school. I didn't know it was possible to get that high above 4, but when you're smart, you're smart.
A++. I'm not sure what gets you. I thought 4.5 was the cap. But he's got a good name, good baseball skills, and a strong IQ. And this week we also got to talk to a guy who's really multifaceted. Wait, before I tease it, TJ Zoik is the other Chatham Blue Jay. Now we got that out of the way. But we also had a great conversation this week with another Georgia Tech player. We had Jake DeLeo. Now we bring on the big righty Zach Maxwell to talk to us for episode 5 of The Hook. Another day, another 2021 angler here on The Hook. I have the pleasure of being joined by Georgia Tech freshman Zach Maxwell, our second Yellow Jackets guest so far. Zach, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So, I have to start with just this season. How's everything going so far for, on this GT team that's been really good in 2021?
Oh, it's going good. We've been playing some of our best baseball lately, and we're trying to just keep riding the wave into playoffs and try to make a deep run and get to Omaha.
I asked your teammate Jake DeLeo a similar thing. How fun is it to be on this team that is so loaded full of freshmen? You guys have such a young roster, and yet you're succeeding so much. Despite or with that inexperience.
It's a lot of fun. It's one of those things that we know we're young, and it's more of like a challenge. It's not like we know we're young. It's not like we're going to take a step back, or we're going to step up and like prove that we belong here and that we're going to fight until the last out.
So you've kind of been the go-to reliever this year for the Jackets. You're second on the team in appearances and have the lowest ERA amongst relievers. Is that a role you were used to? What were you doing in high school, starting or relieving more?
For my first couple years in high school, I did relieve, but then I started my senior year, and I started a couple games last year before the season got cut short. But then got rolled back into the bullpen during summer ball, and I got more comfortable with it. And so as the season's going on, I've got a lot more comfortable coming out of the pen.
How difficult is the early transition when you're used to being a starter and now you have to go and relearn the bullpen again? How difficult is it to get in that frame of mind?
It's a hard transition because you go from, having a set routine, you pitch once every 7 days or every 5 days, whatever it is. And now you can pitch on back-to-back days. And, if you have a bad outing the first night, you got to turn around and flush it. You got to go back out there again because they're putting you out there to do a job and you got to do it.
And you've done the job, really well this year. Below 3 ERA, over 20 innings pitched so far. What do you think has been instrumental to your success so early on here at Georgia Tech?
Definitely our pitching coach, Danny Burrell. He's really guided me very well and the rest of our pitchers on, if we have any questions, he'll drop everything and answer and help us with anything mindset-wise, mechanics-wise. Just really sets down how I should say, like a good path for us to follow.
And what are some of the things he has you continuing to work on now as we get into the later parts of the year and into the off season?
So it's kind of funny. There was one point in the year I was throwing bullpens with my eyes closed. It was just one of those things I needed to feel my body more. So I just was throwing bullpens with my eyes closed. We've stopped doing that for our catcher's sake. But just getting on the mound a couple times a week, just getting used to wanting to be on the mound more and more during the week. So that's one thing that's really helped, just keeping their surroundings surreal.
We talked, in the baseball world a lot about Trevor Bauer pitching with one eye closed. You're throwing bullpens blind. I think for everyone's safety, considering how hard you throw that fastball, maybe a good thing now that your eyes open again. I want to take it back to high school a bit. You were clocked, throwing up to 98 before you even got to Georgia Tech. At what age did you start to just throw the ball a lot harder than everyone else?
I've always been a lot bigger than everyone else. And so I don't know if I ever really was. It's probably until I got to about 14 or 15 years old that the gap started opening wider and wider until I got to high school.
And what were you throwing, you think, 14 or 15? Were you clocking it?
I wasn't actually clocking it then, so I couldn't give you a real number, but it's probably low to mid 80s.
And so, these days you're a mid to high 90s guy. What's the hardest you've ever been clocked throwing a fastball?
I've been clocked by our manager who sits by in home plate with our radar gun. He's gotten me up to 100, but anything that's been on TV, it's been only up to 99.
So, I mean, that velocity is going to make you a big prospect coming out of high school. You also got drafted coming out of high school by the Yankees in the 30th round of the 2019 draft. What was the feeling there? Were you, ever considering pro baseball, or was Georgia Tech kind of the avenue you wanted to go?
I considered it, but after talking with my family a lot, and it was just one of those things that I can't this education is just so good, and this school is so prestigious, and this baseball program is just on the right path that I definitely thought school was the way to go.
And so you're looking at schools. I would assume by the time you were drafted, you had already had a school. But if we go back a little bit, are you a Georgia Tech guy growing up? You're from Ackworth, Georgia. It's closer to Tech than it is to UGA by a good while, but I know there's a lot of schools in the area. Were you a GT guy as a kid?
I was actually born in Nashville, and I lived in Nashville until I was about, I think, 12 years old, and then I moved down to Georgia. But I grew up actually a Tennessee fan, so I've always had a hatred for Georgia. So Georgia was never in the picture, and now definitely Georgia Tech, that hatred grows even more.
So Tech was like a happy medium where you weren't going to a rival, but it was still hometown.
Yeah.
Was there any looks back in Tennessee? Was that ever something you were considering too?
Yeah, there were a couple, but it felt right to stay in Georgia.
So yeah, I mean, you have had a ton of success here. You mentioned your size. You're always bigger than everyone, which obviously helps with the velocity. Kind of a non-baseball question, but it can be baseball related if you want it to be. What's the best thing about being 6'6", or at least your listed height of 6'6", and what's the worst thing about being 6'6"?
So best thing, there's never a bad seat in the house. I can see everything no matter where I'm at. Definitely the worst thing is there's two things. I don't ever find clothes that fit me right. I can't wear dress pants. And then I can't walk through certain doorways without hitting my head.
Do you
I'll catch my forehead on a doorway and I'll know next time to duck.
When you're going to a new place, do you have to scout out the big and tall stores to try and figure out where you're going to be able to get clothes?
Yeah, I do actually. Luckily, my dad is actually bigger than I am, so he does the scouting for me, and then we both go and figure it out.
So your dad was actually a college athlete as well, played basketball at Idaho State. Has he helped, or how has he helped your experience, with him going through collegiate athletics as well?
He was also a big reason why I ended up going to college. He told me it's a once in a lifetime opportunity that, go experience college, because at this age, it'll be different than it is if you ever go back. Just it's one of those things that he enjoyed, and that playing collegiate sports shaped him. And he said, if anything, it'll shape you too, and you'll get a degree that you can fall back on for a lifetime.
So he was a basketball player. Obviously, you've got the size. How were you as a basketball player? Did you play it in high school, and was there ever any possibility of moving forward with it?
No, I didn't play basketball in high school. I played recreationally through middle school, but I was average at best. Baseball was definitely my sport, and I didn't play any other sports in high school. No football, no basketball, nothing else. It was just strictly baseball.
So now, obviously we're talking because you're going to be with the Anglers this summer. What went into your decision to come to the Cape Cod Baseball League and then to land with Chatham this summer?
So I was originally supposed to come last year before it got canceled. And then I ended up playing in Tulsa in the Texas League under Tom Holliday. He was our manager out there. And so I created that connection over this past summer. And so when he reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to play in Chatham, it was a no-brainer.
Have you ever been to Cape Cod, or is the whole landscape going to be a new experience to you?
It's going to be a new experience, and I'm excited. I hear it's beautiful up there, and I hear the baseball is even better, so I'm ready to get up there.
What's something you're potentially most excited for, whether it be baseball or not?
I like to travel, so just going up there and just seeing the area is just maybe one of those things that like just mark it off the list.
Georgia Tech's all over this Chatham roster. You got 3 Yellow Jackets coming. Obviously you directly went because Tom Holliday asked you, but was there any, collusion here? You telling Jake to come or Kevin, people talking to each other, or is it a bit of a coincidence that you're all on the roster together?
Probably more of a coincidence than anything, because I really don't get a lot of I don't rank high on the totem pole, so my words don't go into a lot of decisions made by a lot of people. But it's definitely good to have these guys coming with me, and that freshman core just keep going and building stronger bonds through next season too.
What are some of your goals for this summer with the Anglers, personally or as a team?
Personally, I mean, just keep pitching, just keep throwing. Baseball is one of those games. If you don't play for a while, you lose your feel. So just got to keep the feel, just get in quality innings, and then as a team, just win another championship. Just keep stacking championships up there.
Before we wrap it up, we like to do a little kind of rapid fire questions thing. So just give me, a word or a sentence answer here to all these questions. And I'll start off with, Zach Maxwell is getting ready to go into a game, or this is maybe before the game, because obviously you don't know exactly when you're going to go in. What kind of music are you listening to pump yourself up?
I listen to a lot of Metallica.
Okay. Which what's like a go-to? Do you have a go-to song if you really need it from Metallica?
So we have our pitching songs here at Tech that we play when we pitch. Mine is "Fuel" by Metallica.
Okay, cool. If you're late in an appearance, you're getting tired, you need to strike a guy out. What's your pitch that you trust the most?
I'm still trusting the fastball. I know it's best on best, and I've got my best, so we're going to go with it.
Are there certain pitchers that you've tried to learn and model yourself after a bit, guys who you specifically watch and try and take things from?
Don't really have one for that either. That's just one of those things that I watched a lot of Major League Baseball, but I never watch it to see myself in someone else's shoes.
Okay. Who's your team? You have a favorite team?
Braves.
Right.
Gotta watch them.
And who's your favorite Braves player? He can be past or present.
I got a favorite position player and a favorite pitcher.
Okay.
Freddie Freeman, obviously, gotta love that guy. He's just an all-around great guy. Pitcher, big fan of Max Fried. He's one of those guys I watched a lot because all the Braves locations, all their minor league teams are in Georgia. Mm-hmm. So if you just want to minor league game, I watched Max Fried throw multiple times in minor league, and then watching him in the major leagues, he's just disgusting.
What's your best baseball accomplishment so far?
I'd say starting on opening day last year.
Okay. And then if you, or rather, who's the toughest at bat you've ever had? So what hitter has really given you a tough time?
I gotta think back here. Toughest AB?
Or it can just be a guy in general, someone you face in the ACC, perhaps that's even if you've gotten him out, just as a tough out.
Yeah, that one's a tough one.
All right, I'll give you an easy one to finish it off. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke. Dr. Pepper.
Okay, off the board. I like it. Zach, thank you so much for speaking with me today. Really appreciate it, and can't wait to see you down in Chatham this summer.
I appreciate it. No problem. Can't wait.
All right. Good luck with the rest of your season.
Thank you.
Great conversation with Zach Maxwell. I mean, we talked to Austin Vernon earlier. Now we get Zach Maxwell, who together they average, I think 6'6.5" would be their average height. So there's going to be a lot of big guys on the mound this year dropping down the hammer. And, this roster is full of Austin Vernons and Zach Maxwell's. and we're going to have some great content coming out about it soon. E-Man, there's a lot of exciting guys that will be highlighted in this upcoming post.
Yeah, roster chock full of talent, and you can learn a lot more about those players, their backgrounds, what to expect as the roster continues to take shape and evolve ahead of this 2021 summer. So definitely stay tuned for that on the Chatham Anglers website. You can head over there and you'll be able to see all different blurbs about the players that you'll soon get to know on a more personal level on the Cape.
There's some multi-sport athletes, some top prospects, some future top picks, and a lot more in between, and it's all available on the Chatham Anglers website, chathamanglers.com. We will also be posting everything to our social media as usual, and of course, we'll be posting these episodes to our social media. So if you find us on SoundCloud or you find us on Twitter or YouTube, you can check us out on all three platforms. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, leave a comment, like it, dislike it, tell us how you feel. Same with Twitter. If you want something to be on the podcast, tweet at us. We would love to include your ideas in our podcast as we begin to creep closer and closer to this 2021 season. We're about a month away. We will be less than 1 month away by the time that we do episode 6 of The Hook. But this wraps up episode 5. So for Emmanuel Berbari, I'm Ben Shulman. Thank you so much for listening to us today, and we'll catch you next week.